Welcome to this impromptu live stream. This is the Arrogant Witch channel. I'm Witch Naima, and this channel is dedicated to emerging witches and supernatural folk who are here on earth to do very distinct things in their lifetime before they go, live well, get paid well, and live bone deep fulfillment. Welcome, Lamont. I'm also on YouTube simultaneously. So I'm here today because I just completed my 5 death gates to full power deal, which it's a 2 hour webinar to serve who I just talked about. So like the video, subscribe here on the channel, like, subscribe, share. Okay, this is for those of us. Okay, so this is going to be I'm going to be talking about facing death here as a means to doing the very distinct work you came to do because of what just happened on this webinar with a very powerful Nigerian man who showed up. And I did a longer video called Face Death and Become a Force, but it's a longer video. And I think I'm going to be succinct here, but then also talk about this in the way that I'm going to talk about it now. So, why is this titled For Men and dealing with jealousy and facing death? It's because this Nigerian man shared, and we're all on video in the webinar, and it's the opening. I did things very differently this time, but anyway, everyone's on video, sharing, seeing, and this is a man who's clearly active in doing the work he came here for. He's clearly aware. He is aware of the history of the Yoruba tradition and its place in the world and its necessity. And right, so this is a man who is aware. Okay, and one of the things he talked about several things, but what's relevant here and now that is the thing, it's important and it's imperative that it's dealt with, is a fear of jealousy, and in parentheses, fear of death. When you are ascending in your visibility and leadership, and the for real way that your distinct work in the world will require of you, when you're truly being governed by the work that you were born for. So this is a blood thing, this is a heart thing, this is, as I said today, it's your highness. Your heart is your highness. Okay. And he talked about the level of deep self-hate that is a residual effect of the colonization of Africa. And he talked about, and I asked him, I says, is that part of is like things he wasn't saying, but I can hear it as he was speaking. And I said, is that one of the fears that you have, is the jealousy and what happens with the rise in leadership and visibility and being a target? He's like, yes, it is. And um, I started to share with him about the necessity of facing death. And um, so this is what I'd like to get into now for all the men who are watching, okay? Because um, I know that the world, for all men, and especially African men, it's the level of, especially in Western culture, there's a kind of disregard for the wisdom and presence of an African man. There's a disregard. So it's very different when you get over into Eastern culture, and it's still some of that there, but you know what I mean, okay? And as he even talked about the colonization and the results of that colonization runs so deep in the people and the thinking. And he talked about that. And he and so many African men, for those of you who are African men, African men, there's so much pride. There's so much masculine energy and assertion at a conscious level. There's a lot, it's just big. I dated a Nigerian man, and we actually lived together for some time while I was living in Milan, Italy. And, whenever he was like speaking emphatically, it was, just like hitting the table and the chair. And it's like this masculine, African, strong kind of expression. And on a conscious level, is very much in the culture that, African man, strong. When I was saying to him today, right? Because consciously, you know that you are the original man. You are the birth, right? Creator of this and that, of the science and the math and the. He's like, yes, exactly, exactly, or like all this extraordinary, profound, factual things. Okay, that we know that's factual, that's conscious, right? I said, and isn't it true that there's certain ways that you haven't moved in your career, that you haven't allowed yourself to take a high leadership seat, that you haven't allowed yourself to make certain decisions, make certain investments, move certain ways, because you have this fear of jealousy among fellow African men and others, as well as death. It's like, yeah. So first of all, he's honest. Like we can get somewhere when you're honest. When you still lock behind, the pride of a lot of African men, you remain conquered. Okay, so this facing death thing and how this works. So there's two kinds of death, right? And I have some notes here. I made some notes to be here today. Okay, so there's the death of the identity, and then literal death, right? Being killed for your target. You are rising in leadership and voice and power. You're waking up very distinct, powerful people. Now you're a target, you're a problem. Okay, this is heavy. I'm aware of how heavy this is. This is why it's so important that we do joyful things we have love affairs with, fashion, dancing, the sun, like really doing things that bring us alive and have us feeling endless joy. This is so important because the nature of this work that we're doing is okay. You know what? I think my live stream here might be on private. Can I edit this? Hold on, you guys. Oh my God, it is. Look at that. I can't believe they even let you live stream. How does that even work? Okay, there we go, private. So maybe some people will join me here. Um, and so there's the death of the identity, right? What do I mean by this? This might not be as short as I would like it to be because there's this stuff is deep, right? But we can talk about it more for those of you who choose to reach out to me. Okay, so what do I mean death of identity? So one of the things that he talked about is that, and I'm paraphrasing it. I actually said it to him this way because this is how I heard what he was saying. That basically Yoruba tradition um, is the science that has created Earth. Basically, it's the all. It's everything. It's the all. Like Earth is the way it is. The original Earth, and it's that is created of and based in Yoruba science, fact, and tradition. Right. So he's like, but it's been distorted. People argue. They don't want to like you. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that. Right. We can all see that and get that. Okay. Well, those of us who are in the know, okay. And so binds and ties with being a Yoruba man, being a Nigerian man, being a descendant of the original man, being right. There's lots of identity around that, strong identity around that. And this is who I am, and respect and honor and you know, is strong, is deep, and uh, uh, it's a commanding force. True, I get it to the degree that can as a female. Okay, and as he mentioned today, that the way that foreigners were able to come in with whatever identity they presented to persuade the people to follow their way. Okay, and we're not even talking about before slave. Everybody like to go to slavery as if that's the end all be all, and the Atlantic slave trade was the end all be all. This shit happened centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries before that. Okay, just go do a little bit of reading, and you can come to this awareness. Okay, so there was an identity shift. Okay, and there's also an ego element in there as well, which we all have. There's nothing wrong with an ego. This is not to demonize the ego. This is just to be aware of the functions of human faculty, the ego, the unconscious mind, the conscious mind. the psyche, the collective sharing, right? Okay. And this is a dynamic conversation. This is a very dynamic conversation that's well beyond YouTube, but I'm going to share this now because it's hot and it just came through while we were present today. And so this attachment to Yoruba tradition, we're not saying detach. We're not saying lay it down, or banish it or betray it. We're saying it exists and have free expansionness of thought enough to not be so attached to an identity that you can be whatever is necessary that still has you in integrity with your heart. You can be and maneuver in whatever ways that will be required of you as a Yoruba man, as an African man, still. Okay. So, because this attachment to, I'm a Yoruba man, at the expense of whatever other thought would be highly influential and you being able to have the impact, be the leader, bring folks forward, hire, be in relationship with whomever is required for you to be in relationship with. It's so necessary for you to be able to see and be open to the different thoughts that are going to come your way, that are going to be reflections of your own thoughts, particularly your unconscious ones, so that you're not like you can handle even being at these higher levels. Okay. I know this is dynamic right here. So there's the identity, being able to like die to that identity to be able to be with whatever thought and way of being is necessary for your work. So that's death of identity. Then the literal death. So we talked about this today, like the for real fear of being killed. Like get into it. I've talked about this countless times. And my fear of being killed, like I know that, listen, this is real for those of us who are really doing this work. And when you're called, you can't help it. It's just like you suffer forever. And so, or you're like perpetually angry and like you want to get the thing out. And so it's like, all right, but these things are still, percolating. And this fear of being deaf thing is a thing that perpetually percolates until you deal with it head on. And so, what do I mean by literal death and facing that? So, um, I've talked about death rituals here. And last year is the first time I started doing death rituals, and it made a world of difference. So, what that looks like is, and there's a multitude of ways to do this. I'm not saying this is the only way. So, keep in mind, this is one way I'm sharing with you that I think would, um, is safe, quote unquote, to share publicly. Um, getting into a really calm place in your bedroom, wherever is calm for you, and visualizing yourself getting killed in the ways that you either have visualized seeing yourself getting killed, or you imagine you would get killed as you see yourself really big and bright on the world stage, really doing the work that you came for amongst the very people who you feel like would want to see you dead, and like really seeing that all the way through. So you can do it that visually. And wait, let me complete this. And so you see it all the way through, and you see yourself afraid, like knowing you're about to be killed, and seeing yourself afraid and really allowing yourself to relax right there in that moment. So this is training yourself on how to deal with high nervous system energy, training yourself on how to deal with high stakes life death, literal life death situations, and training yourself to relax. Now, this is some of what they actually do for men who are going to war, Navy SEAL men, etc., preparing them to learn how to navigate their own nervous system. One of the reasons, and this is an aside, one of the reasons why the fear tactics work so well, like the video, please like the video, why the fear tactics work so well through media and online is because most people are not in control of their nervous system. They're not in control of their emotions. So they can see something. Just think of the time when you saw something online that scared you, that made you feel fear, right? And you had the skill of being able to notice that fear in you, that nervousness, and deliberately knew how to calm it at will, right there. You knew how to calm it. And this is why I talk about the energy centers of genitals, heart, solar plexus too, genitals, solar plexus, heart, and crown being hot, potent ways that energy comes in and out. And so One of the ways that has worked for me so powerfully is when I feel something that can be interpreted by my brain and nervous system as fear, immediately sending it down to my genitals and allowing it to marinate there and feel it, like feel it all the way through, like feel yourself being killed all the way through, and the feelings of it, how that would feel right before you get killed, when you're imagining yourself getting killed, the moment that the object, if there's an object that's doing it, hits your body, the moment, and feel that all the way through, so that when any actual experience, if it happens in your life that feels threatening, that makes your nervous system start to wobble, that triggers your unconscious, that collective unconscious that Black men have around, if I really come out, if I really take a stand, I'm going to be Malcolm X out this thing, right? I'm going to be, okay, out this thing. And so that's one thing. There's others you can do. And listen, if you want to work with me, you know how to get in contact with me. But that's one thing easily, when I say easily, you can do it, right? No one has to be there in your bed, etc. So, and I encourage you to also just be personal about this. Like, really look at the fear of jealousy and your own men coming after you, because he talked about the jealousy among African men. Imagine that. Like, what do you think would be required, right? Learning how to discern. So, this takes me on to my next point. So, here are my notes. So, w- as a leader, as a man who's coming out and ascending, it's really important that you can see. So many men just cannot see. Like, they can see to a degree. Like, he saw me. He saw me on a Facebook ad and he showed up, and the level of his presence let me know he can see. Okay, he can see. There's a degree to which he can see. And the more you ascend, the more visible you become, the more you start to take a position where, right, because his vision is global. Like, what he's trying to do is large. It's very large. This is not for average men who just want to do videos on YouTube and that's their life. This is for men who have, their work requires them to cultivate relationships with people all over the world. Their vision requires them to have team, to have people in place, support, have an abundance of money coming in and going out, coming in and going out, coming in and going out. Okay, this is the level of vision that this man is sharing, and he's already active in it. Okay, as you start to rise more and you have more moving parts in your career and in your mission, your sight must become even more refined and more refined and more refined and more refined. This is where the value of a truly powerful woman comes into play. This is one of the reasons why he showed up to my webinar, because he saw me and something in him said, this, I need this. Okay. And this is the case for every magical, spiritual, original Black man, okay, who has a vision, and you're stressed, you know there's more for you to do, and consciously you know who you are. Consciously, okay? Meaning, like, creator of math and science, original man, birther of it all, whoop de whoop, right? But the reason why you don't move the way you know you should move is because unconsciously you are scared. Unconsciously, it's in your unconscious, the way it is in so many of us, of what has happened to so many of our men centuries ago. We're not even talking about Western world. We're talking about ancient, all the way up to now. So this is what we're dealing with. This is the depth of what we're dealing with. And so, having a powerful woman in your sphere, she doesn't even have to be a wife. She can be a wife, or she can be a platonic person who believes in you. Okay, who sees clearly, who is, as I've talked about here, is not attached to an identity, who can see a multitude of ways. When you have a wife who, or women in your life who is uh they're very one dimensional. They don't allow themselves to make decisions from a multi-dimensional place, meaning they're, you know, a good woman who's modest, and, violence is not the answer, and, you know, and listen, because here's where I have in my notes. also to share with you today. Softness in there when you get to know them. For the ones who have that, right? And a lot of them do. There's a kindness, there's of the heart because they are there. And the masculine thing is it's just in the blood. It's just there, you know? Um, there's a kindness is there. And one of the reasons why Africa has been able to be constantly taken over, constantly taken over, is because of this misplaced kindness. Kindness is a very good thing. Misplaced kindness will cost you what it has cost Africa thus far. There is a place for violence. There is a place for putting people on notice. Know where to place kindness. Even as I was talking with him today, there was, when I started to talk about the necessity of facing death, first of all, he had been so talkative. And then when I brought up facing death, there was a kind of like a quiet around that. And then I asked him to give it back to me so I can see how he was receiving what it is that I was sharing. And he goes into what is so traditional in the African culture, which is speaking in allegory, which is poetic. Allegory is very poetic and right, lovely and benevolent. And yes, wonderful, great. Like, y'all, listen, anybody who listened to me long enough knows that I'm idealistic. I love the beauty and the poeticism of life and being in a human body and nature and being one with and superior fine things, right? Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And there's a place for poeticism and there's a place for off with their heads. There's a place things correctly. Now, there's a lot of conversation that's not going to happen online because it just ain't. Okay. But I encourage you, I'm going to repeat this here. One, it's so important for powerful men, and I'm talking from the lens of Yoruba men right now because I decided to target my ads to Nigeria and South Africa. So a lot of African men have come into my orbit in the last 2 weeks or so. And they were already coming actually, but when I started targeting my ads there, more have come. You're very welcome, BX Moreno. Who else is here? Solar, hi Solar, hi Kevin, hi Michael, hi Kadir, hi Lamont. Um, uh, um, for men, this is really important for men who are ascending because we are so hungry for you. We are so hungry for your true, pure leadership that's integrated and whole, where you are dynamic, where you are not bound to being one way, looking one way, right? And I really do get to the degree that I can get because I'm still in a female body and um listen but I get things, okay? The need to preserve, right? The need, the hunger and the desire to really restore Yoruba tradition and even at a deeper, higher level to restore the rightness of the planet. I do like, and we must understand, all of us, we must understand that this is large, this is massive. Our brains, this need that we have to, I need to understand. Our brains, our mortal brains cannot even comprehend the vastness of what it is that we're actually trying to do with our limited times here on earth. What we're trying to do here is so massive. It is the highest. It is the ultimate. And that you have been called in a time such as now to do this work is extraordinary. It is so extraordinary. And so to be bound to one idea and identity of who you are cuts you off from the fullness of what's available for you to wield enormous power, to withstand and be with and steward enormous power. This is massive. This is extraordinary. And as you get around the right people, as he said repeatedly when we were live today, I cannot do this alone. We cannot do this alone. We cannot do this alone. And he is right. You will need team. You will need people, the right people. And I have heard a lot of African men in the last year in particular talk about the coming alive again of Africa, bringing Africa back to life, bringing Africa back to life, bringing Africa back to life, restoring the power and the naturalness and the trueness and the wholeness and the originality of Africa, bringing it back to life, back to life, back to life. So there are plenty of men who believes like he believes. It's just getting into relationship, right relationship with those men and maintaining clear, high, dynamic sight. You need the right powerful women in your life for this. Women have a power that you do not have. And when you truly accept this, and truly powerful African men who are clear, who are connected to the source, know this. That's why they be having women around them. Okay. You will need powerful, dynamic women in your life. Powerful, dynamic women who believe in you, who support. That is so, so critical. So, in closing, you must face death, the death of your identity, in order to really ascend. Do the work that you came here for and not be controlled by your unconscious. Controlled, that's controlling at least 85% of your day-to-day behavior and decision making. In order to do that, you must die to your identity. You must die to your identity and and have the skill of picking that identity back up at will when necessary, because there's a place for that strong identity, and also being willing to pick up any other identity that's necessary in the moment. Okay. And also engaging in the visualization of literal death and engaging whatever kind of death rituals that you feel drawn to, or you talking to the other woman in your life that has sound advice for you. Okay. So that's the facing of death, the identity death and the literal death. Okay. Number two, get powerful women who you are connected with, who you can talk to intimately, vulnerably. This man opened up like he needed that. You need that if you are an African man or man who has very important work to do in this lifetime. You need dynamic women in your life who know how to place kindness, who are expansive in their thinking, who are rich in thought, who are basically like me or believe like me. Okay, you need that. You need women who are not bound to any kind of tradition, who are not, and when I say not bound, I don't mean like disrespect and uh don't have a tradition, or or just I mean who can move according to what is necessary for the situation, can advise according to the situation as necessary, so that you place things appropriately, you decide according to the situation. But okay, anyway, it's nuanced in its detail, but the dynamism is so important. We live in a multiverse. The unit is dynamic. You are a universe. There's so many dimensions and elements of you. And you think just one way of you is going to get you where you really are looking to go in this lifetime? The impact that you're looking to create in the next 10, 20, 30 years? You think just you in this one way and one dimension is the solution in the way? No. The dynamism is so important. And finally, hey! Joy is required. Absolute. Listen. Absolute joy is required. You must be laughing. Okay. You must be doing things that are pleasing to the body strategically. Like, we're not over the top with it all, right? There's a place for pleasure, placing that well. Okay. Maintaining connection to the heart, being in the sun, right? I don't know, I'm preaching to the choir with some of this right now, but it's so important that with all the richness and depth and the what's really I just talked about, and like having that in action and actually living that, it's so important that it's blanketed with joy, blanketed and infused with joy, blanketed and infused with joy, blanketed and infused with joy, because this shit is hard. This shit is hard, and it requires so much, and it's such a call on one's heart, such a call on one's life. And when you get around people who are really, oh, we're doing it big. We hopping on flights. We're doing things in beautiful environments because they inspire us and make us feel good. We're having beautiful stemware. We're surrounded by beautiful trees and perfumes. Oh, I love perfumes. And we're dressed well. We're dressed according to how our blood is inspired. Right? When you listen, when you're of that blood, listen, garments bring you alive. Silk and soft material brings you alive. Gold brings you alive. Get into it. Blanket and infused with joy. Blanket and infused with joy. So find things that bring you joy all throughout your day. Fresh water, bare feet in the grass on the ground, laying down to take a nap, being hugged by somebody who cares about you, really good sex, nourishing conversations that make you appreciate life, dancing, looking in the eyes of somebody who cares about you, listening to music that makes you sing along. Blanketed and infused with joy, blanketed and infused with joy, blanketed and infused with joy perpetually and forevermore. All right. So that's my random word for the day because I just finished this extraordinary, wonderful webinar with several African men who showed up. But this particular man, whose name I will not share because I appreciate keeping that secret, was very vocal and very honest and very vulnerable with us. And if you are watching this, thank you very much. We need you very much now. So thank you all so much for being here. And I look forward to connecting with you next time I connect with you. Ciao.